To continue on talking about enlightenment, awareness, awakening, whatever you might, think of as being more peaceful, more content, more natural. There are people that even call this heaven. But to go to that place, or not to go there, but to be there, first of all, involves overcoming the lifelong conditioning. And I know I've said this many, many, many times, but it's really at the very core of enlightenment is to really just be you. It isn't that complicated. We've made it very complicated, but it isn't that complicated at all. And I'm not saying that, I'm not calling myself enlightenment. I think enlightenment, when I say that, in fact, this whole thing I'm going to entitle Enlightenment and Me. I don't pretend for a minute to be this person that walks on water, that, duh, I guess you figured that out already. But what I mean by that is I don't pretend to be anything different from you. I'm a human being, for crying out loud. I'm flesh and blood. I'm living in this world that can be very, very complex, very, very difficult. And there's stuff to bump up against all the time. I'm in a relationship. And it doesn't always go smooth as glass, to use an old saying. It can be crazy. It'll all go crazy. The only thing that I think that I have discovered through tons and tons of study and reading and listening and whatever, just the whole thing. Those of you who are watching this know what I'm talking about. But the only thing I've discovered is that I am just me, with all my foils and problems. We were conditioned, I think, as children, all of us were conditioned to be better, to try to be better, get better grades, be more polite, don't be so messy, speak up, be confident, don't be nasty, don't be mean, be perfect. My God, be perfect. And we have this super ego riding inside of us. We hear our parents' voice or our teacher's voice or that thing that stays with us forever, that embarrassment of not being perfect. And one thing we did that was just not perfect. It was really totally imperfect. So I think we never have forgiven ourselves for that. I think that's one reason why we feel so unsettled and feel like we veered off course somehow. And we don't have the peace and we don't have the contentment. We don't move through life in a natural way. And in my own life, shoot, I still have, stuff going on. Like I said earlier, a couple minutes ago, I feel sometimes that I'm just like, what are you talking about? Why do you do these videos? And this is happening and you're kind of lost right now. The thing I think, though, that I have now is I forgive myself more quickly. I'm a human being. Things happen. As that old saying says, stuff happens. I think you know the one I'm talking about. Stuff happens. And it's not always happy stuff. So I think that that's the one thing I've learned through all my books is to love myself, to allow myself to be just exactly who I am. When I find myself, when a consciousness, when I'm aware and consciousness comes to the point, it kind of comes up through all the muck and sees what's happening, it just says this is happening. And there's no condemnation like there used to be. There's just like, this is happening. And when I say that this is happening, whatever it may be, maybe I've just lost my temper in a way, small way, with my husband, like saying, oh well, whatever, I don't agree with you, and so therefore you're crazy, you're nuts, or you're whatever. I'm just upset with him, so I may say something kind of nasty. But then I see that, and so the first opportunity I have, I put my arm on him or a hand on him, and my arms around him or a hand on him, or I say, yeah, well, I got lost in the machine again. I got lost in the programming. And it's very healing to do that. It's very healing for yourself. Forgive yourself for being a human being. Give up, try. The more you bring attention to those old programmed karmic things that get your stomach churning, get your heart beating fast, get your throat to tighten, get your nerve endings to the dread, the sadness, it overwhelms you. As soon as you start feeling some of this stuff rising up, just look at it. Look at it. Look at it with compassion. And it starts lessening in its power over you in time. It's almost like when you look at it, and you look at it in a way, just look at it with no thoughts attached. No, I'm going to be better. No, I'll try to be better. No, oh, I'm so bad. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? You know, all the stuff we do, we're so hard on ourselves. And that stems from those early years of everybody else being hard on us. We've learned to almost hate ourselves in many cases. So the more we can just look at it with this awareness that I've talked about that resides in us, that is looking at the whole thing in a very objective kind of bird's eye view way. It pulls back and it sees all of it. There's that part of us that's immersed in a story, in a turmoil, in a repeated karmic pattern. There's that. Then there's that muscle that we're starting to build that can see that. In a non-judgmental way, just see it. And the more that happens, I think the more it lessens the intensity of those storms that seem to take over us, that seem to storm in and take over us. Those lessen and lessen and lessen, and there's a shorter duration to them. And, you know, there's those gurus and teachers who say that they live in this realm of peace all the time. Well, God bless them. Many of us aren't there yet. But I'll tell you something, they're onto something, you know. Of course, we don't see them in their private lives, do we? we don't see what they're doing behind the scenes, but who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. What really matters is that you find this secret to what you're doing to yourself. And you are doing it to yourself by beating up on yourself. And you have to neutralize that. You have to neutralize the power of that, the mind to take you there. Because the mind is doing all this, by the way. God bless it. You know, we need the mind because in practical purposes, we have to make our dental appointments. We have to drive our car. We have to do all the stuff that the mind has to do, add up the figures of our checkbook. We have to use the mind. It's very important. But the mind is extremely damaging when it comes to our emotional and our relationships and in our more heart oriented things. And so there's a lot of love in the heart, but it's squashed by the mind. The mind is very practical in its approach. It wants to get the job done right now, no, not later. It replays all the programs of, oh, you're so bad, you know, you evil person, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. It's a real alarmist, the mind is. And the only way we can disengage it is to see it, to shine a light on it, and say, hey, you know what, mind? I'm not going there with you. We're going to stay right here in our ordinary little place, doing our ordinary little thing, and I'm going to live, I'm going to be free of your tyranny. It sounds like there's two of us there fighting against one another. In a way, there is. But the neutralizer to the mind versus peace, the neutralizer, it's almost like two chemicals. When you put them together and they're explosive, there's a third chemical. I'm not a chemist, but I know there's a third chemical that you put in to neutralize the explosiveness of these two chemicals. And what awareness is, and bringing attention to all this, it is the enlightenment. It is bringing awareness. Awareness is that third chemical, bringing awareness to what is happening. All right, well, I'll come back and talk on this subject, my favorite subject in the whole wide world. And I wish you all well. Bye. I think I'll wish you all well. Get this thing turned off. It doesn't work. All right. Bye, everybody.